Apprenticeships are billed as another way into the working world for young Londoners. But as National Apprenticeship Week begins, a London-based charity claims young women are being locked out of certain careers by work placements which see females paid less and receive less training than their male peers. Mark Gale from the Young Women's Trust joins me now, along with former apprentice Kerri Leung-Sykes. Lovely to have you both with us.
Absolutely.
Now, Mark, while this report finds that young men have begun to make inroads into what was historically perceived women's work, I'm thinking childcare, social care, healthcare, why can't the same be said for young women?
I think the challenge we're seeing is, as you say, young women are being locked out of some of these sectors. We've spoken to young women who have said they desperately want to get into jobs like construction, like engineering, and when they get there they face hostility. They find that they can't find jobs that match their need to fit around childcare and other flexibility. And so we have a situation where in sectors like construction, they're outnumbered 56 to 1 as apprenticeships. And I think what we would like to see is employers taking more proactive steps to recruit young women and being able to offer the flexibility in apprenticeships to enable them to fit around other responsibilities.
Kerri, tell us a little bit about how this report reflects your own personal experience of being an apprentice.
From my own personal experience, our report has uncovered that young women are more likely to be unemployed when their apprenticeship finishes, which was the case for me. So I completed a one-year apprenticeship in business and administration, and at the end there was no long-term job. So I had a prospect of being neat at the end of my apprenticeship.
And how much of that did you feel was a reflection of you being a young woman as opposed to just there not being the jobs out there?
I felt that there were, so we were outnumbered in terms of there was 2 young women on the apprenticeship scheme and 7 young men, and most of the young men managed to find a long-term job, whereas I didn't, and the other young lady didn't either. So,
did you find it hard whilst you were doing the placement, being one of only 2 young women on the entire scheme?
I think personally, yes, it was something that I was quite aware of, the fact that there were more young men than young women on the scheme, so it was something that I was personally quite aware of on a daily basis.
Mark, how much are you hearing stories like Kerri's across the country?
Well, Young Women's Trust speaks to lots of young women, and we know that they are much more likely to be not in education, employment or training, and in that circumstance of being in low pay, we know there's almost 800,000 young women who, over the past 10 years, have been either in low pay or no pay, and that's twice the rate of young men. So we know that young women particularly are facing a really difficult challenge in getting into the job market at the moment. Apprenticeships can be a really valuable route in, but they're not working for young women at the moment.
Kerri, what could have been done to help you?
I think more pre-planning, so helping me find a job to make sure that I wasn't unemployed, that could have helped quite a lot, I think. And yeah, just supporting the young woman to make sure what's her aspirations, what does she need to do to achieve where she wants to go. And I think just support, a lot more support around young women.
Yeah, talking of which, Mark, what would you like to see happen?
We would like to see employers making much more proactive efforts to recruit young women in the first place, so being able to put aside training places and those sorts of situations to encourage young women, particularly in those male-dominated sectors where they're not getting the opportunities at the moment. We'd like to see employers and government promoting part-time apprenticeships to enable that flexibility. And we'd like to see young women and young men as apprentices paid much more. We know particularly trying to live in somewhere like London on the apprenticeship minimum wage is very difficult, and we'd like to see apprentices paid much more in line with the living wage.
Kerri, just very briefly, what would you like to do ultimately? What's the long-term aim?
I'd like to see the upper age on apprenticeships banned. So at the moment there's an upper age limit of like 24, 25, which excludes a lot of young people who are over that age. So I think the government and training providers need to do something to ensure that the people who are over the age are not at a disadvantage.